I come to sing a song about hope. I'm not inspired much right now, but even so, I came out here to sing a song, so here I go. I guess I think that if I tinker long enough, one might appear. And look, it's here. One verse is done, the work's begun. I come to sing a song about hope. In spite of everything ridiculous and sad, though I'm beyond belief depressed, confused, and mad. Well, I got dressed. I underestimated how much that would take. I didn't break until right now. I sing of hope and don't know how. So maybe I can substitute strength, because I'm strong enough. I got through lots of things I didn't think I could, and so did you. I know that's true. And so I sing a song about hope. Though I can't guarantee there's something real behind it, I have to try to show my kids that I can find it. And so today, when life is crazy and impossible to bear, it must be there. Fear never wins. That's what I hope. See, I said hope. The work begins.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. My name is Kelly Crocker and I am one of the ministers here. Today I'm joined by the Reverend Kelly Asprooth-Jackson and the worship team of Linda Warren, Drew Collins, and Daniel Carnes. A very special thanks to Tamara Brognano for the gift of music this morning. And thanks to all those who are volunteering in many roles today: greeters, ushers, hospitality providers, lay ministers, and sound technicians. At First Unitarian Society, we question boldly, listen humbly, grow spiritually, act courageously, and love unapologetically. If you are visiting us today, welcome. We are so very glad that you are here. If you'd like more information about our congregation, please stop by the welcome table located in the Commons to your right next to the elevator. We also hope you'll be able to stay and join us for coffee hour immediately after service, which is also held right out here in the Commons. And for those of you connecting with us virtually today, we are glad that you are with us as well. We hope that you will be able to take a moment and watch the announcement slides immediately after today's service to learn more about upcoming activities and programs. We would like to invite you into a communal art project that we are calling Ribbons of Courage. In trying times, it can be hard to find the determination to keep going. But each of us has sources of strength that persist and reasons for continuing to work, to struggle, to hope. So directly across from the auditorium, you will see ribbons and markers on a table. You're invited to write a word or a phrase on one of these ribbons that names what the source of your determination is. What are you working toward? What inspires you? In the midst of uncertainty, what makes you hope? Your completed ribbons will be used to decorate the Commons as a source of solace and encouragement to others. And now, we invite you to join us in a moment of silence as we center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this time, joining together once again in community. Here is where you can lay it down. Lay down all that you have carried, the weight of the world that has rounded your back, leaving you aching and exhausted.
Here is where healing begins, where burdens are set down and alongside one another's, their magnitude does not seem as great.
Here is where the door is thrown open and the light can lift away the shadows and what was hidden can now be seen.
Here is where you can rest, where nothing is expected but that you bring all of who you are into the presence of the holy and of this loving community. Let us worship together.
And we invite you now to rise in all the ways we do. Join in the words of affirmation as we light our chalice. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage of our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all that is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames, we rise. And we invite you now to take a moment to turn and greet those around you.
Now I invite us to sing together our opening hymn, number 1015, I Know I Can, verses 1, 2, and 4.
I can
invite anyone who would like to come forward for our story to come on up. Hi. I heard you had a long walk yesterday. How was Girls on the Run? It's good? Yeah. You had a long walk yesterday? It is good walking weather out there. Hi, Rosie.
Good morning. It's good to see you all today. You know, we have a story for you today. It's a true story about determination. Now, what would you say determination means? Thoughts, answers? Yeah, what do you think? You're determined to do something.
That's right.
Yes, yes, and yes. Oh, okay, yeah. It would take determination to move a mountain. Yes. They really, really think that they're going to do it. So here is a definition I will offer you. But these are all good answers and no criticism. For us, at least in this story, we think if you have a goal or a dream and you keep working at it, keep going. So here is our true story.
Yes. Deep in the heart of India, a mighty mountain separated two villages. Can you see the mighty mountain in your mind? Imagine the biggest mountain you can think of. On Manji's side, nothing grew. People were hungry. Children gave up walking the 40 long miles to school on the other side of the mountain. Can you imagine walking 40 miles to school? You would drive? Yeah. Definitely. Adults would groan on the jagged, long climb to plow the fields or shop in the market. But on the other side of the mountain, rice and wheat flowered and flourished. People's bellies were full, and their pockets jangled with money. And every day, Manji would stop at the top of the mountain to catch his breath, and he would look at the two villages. Why should some people have so much and others so little? Manji tried to think of an answer as he made his way down the mountain to plant and harvest on the other side. If only the two villages were closer. If only the road between them were easier. If only there was a way to move a mountain.
So frustrated, he picked up a stone and he threw it down on the ground. Crack! He saw it shatter into a sprinkle of powder. He knelt down and he felt it between his fingers. That was it. So Manji hurried to his hut to search for something to trade. And he didn't really have anything except for 3 goats. So he gently looped a rope around each of their necks and led them to find someone who would trade his 3 goats for a worn hammer and chisel.
So he hurried back to the top of the mountain. He positioned the chisel, he aimed, swung the hammer. Clink! Powdered rock and tiny chip sprayed. Over and over, Manji swung until it was too dark to see. Clink, clank, clunk. His sweaty, throbbing fingers rubbed the top of the rough rock, and he felt a dent. It was a small dent, and it was bumpy, but it was there. Maybe 2 inches? Maybe 3 inches? His shoulders ached, his head pounded, but his heart was lighter. He picked his way down the mountain and across the dirt path and tumbled into his bed.
All too soon, a rooster crowed. Manji rubbed his eyes, his hands were raw and blistered. Still, he climbed the mountain. He gripped the hammer and he pounded the chisel for hours. Hold, aim, swing. Then he scrambled down to hoe, to water, and weed on the other side. As soon as he could, he rushed back up. Hold, aim, swing.
Day after day, Manji clutched the hammer and the chisel. Hold, aim, swing. Night after night, he slid his dusty fingers into the hole and he would measure 1 foot, 2 feet. After a week, he could crouch inside the hole. It was 4 feet, 5 feet.
You're being ridiculous, people told him. A man can't change a mountain. It's there before he's born and after he dies. But Manji could see something that they couldn't. The parting of the mountain into 2 great halves with a road in between. A road where people could get to work, to market, to school, even to the hospital more easily. Nothing could stop him, not words, not time, not even the mountain, which sent chips and powder tumbling down his shoulders and whitening his hair.
A whole year passed. Every day, Manji was a little stronger and the hole a little deeper and longer. 10 feet, 20 feet, 10 years passed. Still, it was too far for children to walk to school. The sick often couldn't get to the clinic in time, and the villagers spent countless hours climbing to work in the fields and shopping in the markets. But Manji didn't slow down. Hold, aim, swing. He pushed forward 30 feet, 50 feet. The sides of the hole now towered over his body.
100 feet forward, 200 feet. Each time he returned to the task, Manji would see that helping hands had made the hole a little bit longer than he had left it. He found food waiting for him, baskets of warm roti dripping with melted ghee. Tins of spicy dal tickled his nose. Once he unwrapped a cloth to find a shiny new hammer and chisel glinting in the sun.
What was happening? People were helping him, exactly. Now you ready for this? By the 22nd year. Is any of you 22? No. So longer than your whole lifetime. You have a grandmother that's 99? I bet.
Yeah.
Almost 100. Yeah. 79. Wow. Well, this was 22 years later. Whispers swept through both villages. Every day, more people gathered. Parents would lift little ones on their shoulders so that they could see the other side. They wondered if this would be the day. Hold, aim, swing. Everyone held their breath. Manji could hear his heart beating as loudly as the hammer hitting the rock. Hold, aim, swing.
Swoosh! Where once a mighty mountain stood, there was nothing but open space and broken rocks.
They did it! He did. Manji looked from one village to the other. But for the first time, it wasn't 2 villages. There was just one, sharing water, hopes, dreams, and a man who had moved a mountain. Thank you. It is a true story. You don't think it's a true story? It is a true story of a man named Manji. And it took him 22 years, but he did it. He, went right down. You don't believe? All right, parents, we're going to need you to look this up and show them. It's an honest to goodness true story. All right, we are going to sing you out to class.
You can make the world so bright. invite you to rise again in body and or in spirit so we can sing our hymn, One More Step. We'll sing all 4 verses.
Our inspiration today comes from the poet Alberto Rios. We plant seeds in the ground and dreams in the sky, hoping that someday the roots of one will meet the upstretched limbs of the other. It has not happened yet. We share the sky, all of us, the whole world. Together we are a tribe of eyes that look upward, even as we stand on uncertain ground. The earth beneath us moves quiet and wild, its boundaries shifting, its muscles wavering. The dream of sky is indifferent to all this, impervious to borders, fences, reservations. The sky is our common home, the place we all live. There we are in the world together. The dream of sky requires no passport. Blue will not be fenced. Blue will not be a crime. Look up, stay a while, let your breathing slow. Know that you always have a home here.
Twelfth Night, the play by William Shakespeare, begins with a shipwreck. The scene is not in the script. The events are only described briefly after the fact by 2 of the survivors. But in an effort to establish the harsh conditions for what is ultimately a comedic story, generations of directors have used all manner of stagecraft to dramatize the disaster. Clanging cymbals and flashing lights, scenery and stagehands colliding together, all in an effort to paint an appropriately tactile sense of the scope of the catastrophe, the loss of human life. However they get there, the major action of the play begins with the opening of Act 1, Scene 2. Our hero, Viola, was on that ship. She was one of the very few to survive its sinking. She awakes on a beach, clinging to life, and eyes full of confusion and uncertainty, she asks the other survivors, "What country, friends, is this?" I've been thinking about Viola the last few days and empathizing with her. Not just her in that one moment, in one play, but her in that moment in every performance of every production of that play that has ever happened or ever will happen. an infinity of plaintive voices, waking up to strange and painful conditions and asking, what country, friends, is this? And I've also been thinking a lot about this simple fact. It hurts to lose, and it feels good to win. These are basic human reactions to nearly any form of competition. I have them the same as you. And the more important the contest, the higher the stakes, the more dire the consequences of the loss, the worse that losing feels. It can be not just painful, but bewildering, disorienting, paralyzing. Maybe something in that list of feelings feels familiar to you today. Maybe it does not. But since loss is an inevitable fact of living, it is worth all of our considering. How, amidst pain and fear and disorientation, do we find the will to persevere? How, amidst a broken world, do we stay determined to live in it? Let me start the answer with a very popular option that does not work. If your will to act, your faith to hope, your moral courage is built on the premise that because your cause is just, you will inevitably win, you are setting yourself up for failure. Because you can do everything right, work your fingers to the bone, leave it all on the field, and you can still lose. The reason for getting out of bed in the morning, for doing what is hard, for picking up the pieces, for living life, the reason has to be about something more than just winning. Victory and defeat are not indicators of moral rectitude, and if you try to use them as such, you will be in the wrong most of the time. If winning, or the likely prospect of it, is what you need in order to drive you forward, then there is no wrong thing in this world that you cannot be tempted into doing. There is no friend you will not sell out, no principle you will not betray. If you confuse hope with the expectation of victory, you will find yourself at the end given over completely to the hollow worship of power, drawn in by the thrill of victory and the accompanying feeling of strength, to the point that you ignore or dismiss every moral value compromised, every ounce of humanity sacrificed in order to get there. And if you do not chase, rudderless, after the comfort of being on the winning side, to the point that your moral compass becomes a weather vane pointing towards whoever is willing to play the game with the most brutality and contempt, you can still fall prey to dependence on an easy, visible certainty of victory. If your hold on your principles is sustained only by the expectation that they will be validated by universal acclaim and triumph, then you have condemned yourself to be devoured by despair. And here is where we Unitarian Universalists, we inheritors of and advocates for the tradition of religious liberalism, sometimes need to expand our thinking. You have heard 10,000 times before that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Dr. King said it, and I and countless others have repeated it. Somewhere in all that repetition, I believe we have sometimes gotten sloppy in our interpretation. I say we, I am implicated here as well, clutching hold of it like a promise of inevitable progress, of the premise that society, the world, all things in general, on the whole, simply get better over time. And so, when that promise goes unfulfilled, hope crumples. But in that famous line, Dr. King was paraphrasing our theological ancestor, Theodore Parker. I do not mean that Dr. King misunderstood the original text. I think he grasped it quite well, actually. And it is more by a game of telephone that those words have come to be misused and understood. But let us go back to the original quote from Parker to try to understand. 171 years ago, Theodore Parker, who risked his life and died in exile for his courageous opposition to slavery, and who still never learned to fully see beyond the racial hierarchy of his age, that Theodore Parker wrote, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice." That is not a promise that human progress shall roll in on the wheels of inevitability, as indeed Dr. King told us it would not. It is a declaration about the moral universe, not the physical one. And even then, it comes with the confession that he has no tangible evidence for his conclusion. We divine the bend towards justice by conscience, not sight. We toil and sweat and struggle to bend the world in that same direction, not because we are assured that some final victory is right around the corner, but because we know in our hearts that it is right. That is my core counsel to you, today and every day. Goodness is its own reward. It must be, because no other reward for it is promised. If you can live with that, no disappointment can defeat you. If you cannot, no victory will ever satisfy you. I know that it is not easy. I do believe it is possible. To choose to be good, to make some right and loving choice, however small or large, is an act of hope. The activist and author Mariam Kaba says that love is a requirement of principled struggle, both self-love and love for others. That we must all do what we can, that it is better to do something rather than nothing, that we have to trust others as well as ourselves. Hope is a discipline, she says. We must practice it daily. Hope is a discipline, one decidedly different from the expectation that everything will work out for the best. But that does not mean it is cold or joyless, just an obligation that only Puritan hearts can fulfill. Living through history is rarely an easy or unchallenging lot for human beings to have. And yet, history is the only place that we have for doing our living in. The discipline of hope honors those who came before us, struggled before us, whether they lost or won. And it affirms that beauty and joy that is potential in every moment. It refuses to surrender to the sorrow and pain that are so much a part of the world anything more than what they have already claimed. The historian Howard Zinn said that to be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act, in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. Gwendolyn Brooks, the first black recipient of the Pulitzer Prize, wrote, "Live not for battles won. Live not for the end of the song. Live in the along." The along that we are living in right now is a fearful and uncertain one for many of us. A dear friend observed to me this week that it is a strange and particular sort of menace to absorb. The targets have been named, the various identities, categories, people who have been singled out for dehumanization. But where and how and when and in what order and by which means the suffering is to be inflicted by the powerful, so much of that is unknown and unknowable. In his collection of meditations on the seasons of the natural world as he observed them from his home in far upstate New York, my esteemed and departed colleague Max Kutz wrote, "Autumn came. I didn't know it had until I saw cucumber leaves closing limp like used yesterdays one morning after frost. Cucumbers are better calendars than calendars. They know when summer ends. It's life and death to them. In a time of threats made and about to be kept, it should not surprise you to hear me say that we have a duty as a congregation to defend the vulnerable, to be a place of sanctuary and a voice for truth against a context in which lies are rampant and danger is real. That has been our work since we began. It only continues on. But I want to remind you specifically, if you are not already conscious of it, a lot of us are cucumbers here. If you know yourself to be one today, if you are gripped by some life and death fear in this moment, I respect your fear. My heart is with you. I will not try to dismiss or dissuade you from that feeling. I will do what it is in my power to do, to side with you, to risk myself alongside you. The members of Otpor, a movement of resistance in Serbia to the regime of Slobodan Milosevic, are said to have had a saying about the beatings that they endured at the hands of his police force. It only hurts if you're scared. I confess to you, in this moment, I am scared. But that fear has only the power over me that I give to it. I can choose to let it work its intended purpose to shrink me, to isolate me, to make me less of an obstacle in the forward march of power, or I can choose to let it connect me to all the others who are afraid, to spur me on, to make me more determined to survive. As a spiritual community of belonging, where we envision a world fueled by love and justice, our moral imperative in an immoral age is not a mere matter of noblesse oblige. Over the centuries, our tradition has drawn in and sometimes welcomed from the margins all manner of people because we have always been of the margins ourselves, only temporarily and conditionally comfortable as marginal religions go here in America these past 200 years. The determination to protect and defend the lives and humanity of trans and non-binary and queer folks in general, people of color, the poor, the imprisoned, women, and everyone who can become pregnant, and immigrants, documented or otherwise, must not be an ethical afterthought. It must be a practice of solidarity. Our survival is bound up together. Maya Angelou opened one of her poems with this first stanza. Lying, thinking last night how to find my soul a home where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stone. I came up with one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody, but nobody, can make it out here alone. The hard news is that we can't. The good news is we don't have to. That if you make goodness its own reward, and the only one that you are determined to earn, you can find your way into the company of others who feel the same. It may just be that someone within the sound of my voice is doing so right now. In one of her poems, the singer-songwriter Carrie Newcomer calls on us to hold close all you love, all you believe in, all you hope for, everything that actually matters, because you're going to get tired and discouraged and angry and wander off course. We have each other here, and we are going to need each other now more than ever to hang on to when we get tired, discouraged, angry, or wander off course. When things get bad, and please do not leave here today without hearing me say that we must be prepared that they will. Let us help each other to hold not to the certainty of victory, but the persistent reality of life, and therefore the possibility of hope. As Max Kutz wrote, completing his thoughts about autumn, if there is any sense to seasons, it is this: that time is timeless and time is life. Not spring nor summer, not even fall is gone. Each will be what it becomes, as winter will be spring. The seasons play their walk-on parts, and we can hardly hear the lines, much less know all the plot, except the final line. Life abides.
And I invite you now into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to an offering which supports the ongoing work of this community, as well as the work of our outreach offering recipient, who this week is Wisconsin Faith Voices for Justice, an alliance of people and communities of faith working together for the common good in our state. They, or perhaps we should say we, as this congregation is a member, advocate particularly for public policy to address the root causes of poverty, hunger, homelessness, and economic injustice. There's multiple ways to share your gifts. Baskets will be passed here in the room, and you can donate directly from our website, and you'll see on the screen our new text-to-give information. We thank you for your generosity and for your faith in this life we create together. Each week we gather together, bringing with us the joys and the losses of our days. We hold our own pain and celebrations along with the ones of those we love, and we share them here, knowing they are held gently in support. Lucas Carlson lights a candle to remember my great-grandma Mamie. Thank you, Lucas. Jake Blazczyk asks us to light a candle of gratitude for Vicki Jones, Thomas Dolmage, and all other poll workers who worked on Election Day. Their generosity ensured a safe election. And we light a candle for everything this last week holds. For the ones who held it together, making coffee and lunches and going to work when their heart was breaking. For the ones who held on to another while they cried and they searched for every ounce of strength they themselves possessed. For the ones who held scared and sad and angry friends, neighbors, children, and said, "You are not alone." May this light help us to see the light, the joy, the love that remains. And if you will join us in a moment of prayer with these words from Douglas Taylor. Spirit of tender mercies, from whom all things come and to whom all things return, we gather on the edge of another week, and for some of us on the edge of our strength. We come lifted up by events of our week or weighed down by them, or we arrive in some paradoxical mix thereof. We are here in our gathering of hope and restoration. We may come weary and worn down, or with questions, with a longing, with something to offer. But for those who come today shattered, broken, lonely, and lost, let us offer our prayer of resilience. Again this week, we test the tender places in our hearts and in our lives to see what healing may occur. Gratitude is often a source of healing, and we give thanks for the landscapes of grace in our lives, for music and good companions, for the guidance of great principles and the examples of integrity, compassion, and goodness around us. We give thanks for all that lifts us up and for lessons that lead us on. For the times when we are brought low by anxiety or adversity, show us the hidden wells of love that we can tap into. Help us rise up once more, just once more, and once more again will surely be enough. Remind us we do not strive in vain, that we are part of a chorus, that resilience is in our bones, that peace will prevail on earth, and that healing and grace will come like soft rain. Be thou an ever-present strength upon our journeys, and teach us that in falling down, we do rise again. This we ask in the name of all that is holy. May it be so. May we be so. Amen.
In body and or in spirit, so we can sing our final hymn. Number 1014, Answering the Call of Love. If you're looking in your hymnal, It's under the title Standing on the Side of Love, but the songwriter has changed it, and so we sing his new lyrics, Answering the Call of Love.
Dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. Blessed be, go in peace. And please be seated for the postlude.